All right, joining us now, I'm delighted he's with us, Governor Rick Perry from the great state of Texas. We are in Texas. We've been here now for a couple of days. We're heading out to San Antonio later today, 4 p.m. at the Barnes & Noble off the La Cantera Parkway. And I couldn't believe Rick Perry didn't show up yesterday. I expected him to ride in on the Harley behind me, and he joins us now. Governor, how are you?
Oh, howdy, Laura. Listen, if I had the opportunity to ride the Fat Boy in with you, it would have been my great pleasure, but we were up in Fort Worth doing a little work there, so forgive us and we'll make it up to you. Welcome to Texas.
I guess running the state is a little more important than the Obama Diaries tour. Governor, we've had an amazing time here, as I always do when I come to Texas. Huge crowds, amazing enthusiasm, an economy that's actually vibrant, that in many ways should be a beacon to the rest of the country and be something that this administration looks to for encouragement, support, and maybe some ideas. But instead, every time I turn around, the target's on your back. The oil industry's back, the industry's demonized, moratoria in place. And I have to say to myself, how long can this vibrant economy continue if profits are the enemy here?
Well, you tapped into a very good question, and the issue is, because we've had some very principled, fiscal conservative leadership in the state for the last decade, we have put Texas at the forefront. There is no doubt that this is the best place in America to do business. A whole raft of, whether it's Wall Street Journal, Forbes, The Economist, even the channel networks, as they rank the states last week, one of them came out with the rankings of the states, Texas #1 state in the nation to do business. And it's because we haven't let our taxes become a burden on the job creators. We kept our regulatory climate fair and predictable. We passed the most sweeping tort reform back in 2003 that doesn't allow for open suing. And we continue to have an accountable public school system. So when Caterpillar or Medtronics or one of those companies that decide to shut down in those high-tax, high-regulatory states, they move to Texas, know there'll be a skilled workforce here. That's the simple principles of governing, Laura. And look, it'll work in Washington, D.C., or it'll work in any other state. The issue is having men and women elected who will have the courage to say no to all these special interests, no to new taxes, no to every group that shows up, maybe with good ideas, but the fact of the matter is you can't afford it. And that's what the trouble in Washington, D.C. is. This is nothing but a spending problem. And you're going to see on the 2nd of November Americans all across this country standing up and saying, you know what, we want governors who are fiscal conservatives. We want governors who will prioritize what's important, and that is having a legal system that doesn't allow for oversuing, and have the regulatory climate that's fair, and a tax system that doesn't tax and put a burden on the job creators.
Another issue, Governor Perry, and you're running for a third term as governor of Texas. Your Democratic opponent is Bill White, and we'll see how that all plays out. But you're way ahead in the polls right now, and it looks like it's going to be fairly smooth sailing to November for you. But I want to ask about immigration, because some of my conservative friends raised questions about some of the things that your office has said about Arizona over the last several weeks, given where Arizona went with its own initiative to enforce the immigration laws that the federal government is not doing, and some of the comments you've made about sanctuary cities. Tell us, for the record, where you are on Arizona and on the sanctuary city problem, given the massive problems that Texas has faced itself with the illegal immigration issue.
Yeah, we've been very straightforward about the issue. We totally support Arizona's right to pass that legislation. When we were asked about it initially, I said, listen, we support their right to uphold public safety and to pass the legislation that they did. There were a couple of things in that piece of legislation that we didn't think was right for Texas. I'm against a prohibition, or I should say a provision in the bill that would allow citizens to sue police departments for failure to uphold the law. That just opens a whole new cause of action for lawsuits. And look, we've got a long history of opposing these new causes of action in the lawsuits. So I think what the mainstream media, they honed in on, we found one place where you don't agree. So, look, here's a conservative Republican governor.
You're saying Rick Perry is not a squish on immigration, then?
Hey, let me tell you, we have put $230 million on the border to secure it, and that's what you've got to be focused on. Listen, we can have all the discussion and debates that we want about immigration policy, immigration reform, but until you secure that border, it doesn't make any difference. If the border continues to be this porous place where the drug dealers have basically free. I mean, we're seeing bombs going off in Juarez. We saw the governor of Tamaulipas assassinated 2 weeks ago. It is a war zone down there, and we've got a federal government that seems to be disjointed or disengaged.
Do they get it, Governor? I mean, they're sending 1,200.
You've got to secure the border first.
They're sending 1,200 National Guard troops to the border in the next couple of weeks, and they say they're getting serious. They say they're doing more than the Bush administration ever did to enforce the law, and a lot of this is just overheated Republican talking points.
This is an administration that loves to talk, but you don't see much action. And the fact of the matter is, it is an affront to those of us who live on this border. We got 1,200 miles of an 1,800-mile border here in Texas. They're sending 250 additional personnel to the border of Texas. That is on its face an affront. This administration, whether it's coming in and trying to take over our air permitting process with a overreaching EPA, we're pushing back every moment against this administration. We continue to see them not addressing this issue of border security. Put the boots on the ground. We need 3,000 additional border patrol agents on our border with Mexico. Just in Texas, we need to see those Predator drones flying up and down, giving the support to the local.
Governor, come on. We have a lot of drones out there. Unfortunately, they're elected officials who reside in Washington, D.C.
Yeah,
so
well, we want the Predator drones that actually work, the ones that are in the sky giving good real-time information back to our law enforcement. They are out there flying them. They need to be giving us the support.
Yeah, I mean, people don't understand this who haven't been down to the border, but the El Paso City Hall has literally been riddled with bullets from guns fired from Mexico.
It's a war zone, Laura. I mean, there is no use trying to soft pedal this anymore. We're seeing these drug dealers become more and more brazen by the day. 17 kids killed down in Torreon in our neighboring state of Coahuila. We have got to be actively engaged, helping Mexico stop these drug dealers and stop this terrorist threat along our southern border.
Well, I didn't like the fact that Mexican governors and the Mexican president feel completely fine and say with impunity horrible things about states like Arizona. And then we have elected officials in this country who apparently agree more with Mexico than they do with the sovereign rights of states to defend their own borders.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that I told Jan, I said, listen, Jan, if they have the border governors meeting in Arizona like they're supposed to as they pass it around, it's your time. We'll give I said, I'm probably not going to be able to come because I got a pretty full-time deal going on over here between now and the 2nd of November. But the fact is, if they try to move it and make a political statement of it to California or to Mexico, you can bet I'm not going to be there. This politicizing the issue of border security, trying to make it a racist issue, as this president's trying to do, is an absolute affront to those of us who live along this border, who understand the importance of keeping the trade going, of being able to have a border that is thoughtfully secured, and then we can have a discussion about immigration policy at that particular point in time. But all they're interested in is running a political machine and the political rhetoric that we're seeing coming out of their mouths.
Do you think the country, Governor Perry, given the Bush legacy and what's solidified in the minds of many Americans about Republican excesses and the second Bush term of spending and so forth, do you think America is ready for another president from Texas?
I don't have any idea whether they're ready for a president from Texas, but they're ready for a president who's got some fiscal responsibility. They're ready for a person that will be a leader and go, America's great. America's great and America's working. The problem is Washington's broke. And the people all across this country. On November the 2nd, you're going to see the start of a massive movement that I think is going to last through 2012, putting fiscal conservatives back into place. And there is going to be no... There's going to be no period of time and no allowing Republicans to backslide or go, well, it wasn't exact. We're going to go spend this money. No, you're not.
But Governor, I mean, it's straight talk here. I mean, you don't say, do you today, that the Republicans under George Bush in the last 3 years of his administration got it right on spending? You're not saying that, are you?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, that was part of the problem. The reason that we lost control of Congress and lost the presidency was because of the rampant spending that was going on by Republicans. I mean, there's no use in sugarcoating it. And American people are smart enough to understand that, and men and women who are running for office, they better be standing up in front of their constituents and saying, I pledge to you that I am going to be a fiscal conservative, if nothing else.
I love it. Governor Rick Perry, it's great to talk to you.
Laura, God bless you, and enjoy Texas. Come back and stay as long as you want, anytime.
Governor Rick Perry from the great state of Texas on your Healthy Radio Addiction.